The Torah tells us the most amazing words. Vayedaber Elokim es kol advorim he'ela lemor. God said all these words saying, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am the Lord your God. Long introduction. Vayedaber Elokim, God spoke all these words saying, just say, Hashem said, I'm Lord your God. What's the need for this whole introduction? The Baal HaTanya, the first Grand Rabbi of Chabad, teaches us that what's contained within these words is something remarkable. And such an important lesson for us, especially as we're about to start the holiday of Shavuot. Torah, at its core, is incredible chachma, incredible wisdom. But now, let's say you learn about a mitzvah in the Torah. You learn about one of the commandments. And you read the Chumash, you read what it says in the Torah. The Torah is very careful with every word. And we walk away not really understanding what the mitzvah is, what the parameters of it, how to go about fulfilling it, how to avoid transgressing it. We're not sure. So then we open the Mishnah, the Talmud, the Gemara, and we start getting a bigger picture. The commentaries on the Talmud, the Code of Jewish Law. And suddenly we see the applications and the relevance of it, how to live it in our lives, whether it's observing Shabbos, whether it's kosher, and so on. The word Elah, which means these, refers to the Torah in its expansive state. The oral Torah in its full profundity and explanation of the relevance and the way to apply, the way to fulfill the mitzvahs. But the Torah Shebechsav, the written Torah, is very concentrated. And in fact, as you go further back in the Torah, you see it's more and more concentrated. The entirety of the oral law, the entirety of Torah Sheba'al Peh can be found and sourced in Torah Shebechsav, in the written Torah. But in a nuance, in a nuance of a word, an inference of a letter, and so on. You go further back, the Ramban, Nachmanides, the great Kabbalist, teaches us that the entirety of world history and all the Torah that's been studied and lived and so on is contained within the first 6 days of creation. Because each day is parallel to another millennium. Then if you go back to the first word in the Torah, the word Bereshis, in the beginning, it has 6 letters in it, parallel to the 6th millennium. As you go further back, everything that's been expressed is contained in concentrated form, going further and further back. Elah is the Torah in its full expansiveness. Vayedaber Elokim es kol advorim Elah. Hashem spoke all of this. Hashem took all of Torah, and using the name of Hashem of Elokim, he was mitzamtzim. He took all of that and he concentrated it into a few statements and distilled it into these few statements of the 10 Commandments. And that's what the 10 Commandments, the Aseret Dibros, are the entirety of everything as we know it, in Torah, in reality, in these few statements. But it starts with, Hashem said all of this, and he said, what did he say with all of that? Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am the Lord your God. Understand the brilliance of these 3 words, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Anochi, Ramban, again that great Kabbalist we mentioned earlier, teaches us that the entirety of Torah is really names of Hashem. What's a name? A name tells you something about the core, something about the person, something about the essence of a person. Now, when we talk about Hashem, his names don't tell us about his essence, but they tell us how he relates to the world. So the entirety of Torah is Hashem's relating to the world and interface with the world. That's a name. But then there's Anochi. Anochi is I. Not the way I relate, not different things about me, just me, the core of who I am. And Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem, your God. Your God in a very personal way, in a way that the entirety of everything of who I am, as in God, everything Hashem is concentrated in your God, is concentrated in the relationship with you. So when you think about yourself as a Jew, when you think about somebody who lives by Torah and so on, what you really are is you're somebody who's hardwired to connect to Hashem in the highest realm, in the highest way imaginable. That's who we are. That's what a Jew is. That's what we received on Shavuot. On Shavuot 3,332 years ago, Hashem spoke to us. Our neshamas, our souls were there as well. And what did he tell us? That we have a relationship. We are connected. The Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, says something amazing. The Talmud, the Gemara says, Eina Doma, there's no comparison, Lamishi Shona Pirko Mea Pamim, between somebody who studied Torah, reviewed a concept in Torah 100 times, Lamishi Shona Mea Pamim Ve'echad, to somebody who repeated it and reviewed it 101 times. 100, 101, what's the difference? Says the Baal Shem Tov, it's not 101. The words are very exact. Lamishi Shona Mishin Pirko Mea Pamim Ve'echad, to someone who repeated his study 100 times with the one. The one. Who's the one? Who's Alufa Shalom? Who's that one? That's God. I could study Torah as an intellectual pursuit. I could study it out of obligation. I could study it out of necessity. Or I could study it because what I'm studying is I'm studying Hashem. Hashem is right there with me and we're connecting on that level. One of the most famous Mishnahs in the Talmud that studied in yeshiva many, many times over. Shnayim Oivsim Batalas. Two people are holding onto a shirt. This one says I found it. This one says I found it. This one says it's mine. This one says it's mine. They have to each take an oath and yachloku. Then they split it. Says Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, one of the great Musar teachers of the 19th century, that the way you have to read the Mishnah is Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says God, split the shirt. In other words, Hashem is right there with us. He's teaching us. The word Anochi, the Gemara says, the Talmud says the word Anochi, I, is an acronym for Ano, I, Nafshoi, my soul. Ksavis, I wrote down, Yehovah, and I gave to you. What is Torah? Torah is the value system of Hashem. It's the, so to speak, the neshama of Hashem, the soul of Hashem. The closest thing we can come to connect to Hashem. In His essence, that's what Hashem gave us in Torah. So when you sit and study Torah, whatever it is you're studying in Torah, whether you're studying Gemara or Mishnah, Halacha, Jewish law, you're studying Chumash, whatever it might be, know that what you're doing is you're embracing Hashem. You're connecting to Hashem on that deepest level. You know, when you hug somebody, does it make a difference if they're wearing a coat and a jacket and another coat? No, you're hugging the person. Who cares how many layers there are? There's no distance created because you're hugging the person. It's the same thing. When I study Torah, whatever level, whatever aspect of Torah it is, I'm embracing Hashem. I'm connecting to Hashem. And that, what happens is that transforms me. I change. You know, a number of years ago, I was in New York on vacation with the family and I wanted to relax. So I picked up a book that happened to be at the home we were staying in. And it was a book of fiction, which I typically am not a big fiction reader. But this book had me riveted. It's a book called The Kite Runner. A fascinating book about Afghanistan many years ago. And it shows how different generations of people all come back together and reconnect in this way that seems impossible. And it hit me, there are three realms that are very similar. Fiction, human psychology, and Torah. Where everything fits together in such a perfect way, like a glove. It all comes together. When you write fiction, you can do whatever you want. You're making up the story. So you can make it that people start out a certain place, travel different parts of the world, and come back together. You could do that because you make up the story. Now, when it comes to human psychology, a good therapist can show that everything in your life is interconnected. Your experiences as a child, the decisions you've made as an adult, your relationships or the lack thereof, your successes or lack thereof, and so on. It all comes together. It's all there. The examples you give when you talk, what it is that you do, how you set yourself up for success or failure, it's all connected. The good therapist could show what's going on in your core and how it all comes together. And anyone who studied Torah properly sees how you study a topic in Torah. And you'll notice wordings. Why is the word said this way? In this context, is it expressed this way? In different contexts, a different word is used. Why is a question asked here and then the question later on is asked differently? What's the rationale behind this? And then you develop a principle, and that principle can answer all the questions. It's all so beautiful. The Rambam, Maimonides, says there are two ways to come to love Hashem. There's a mitzvah to love God, because we're in a relationship with God. He's giving us the deepest part of Himself, and we have to connect to that. God isn't some abstract king in the heavens. He's somebody we have a relationship with. And a relationship has to have love with it. How do I come to love God? One of two ways. I can love God through looking at the brilliance of His creation or the brilliance of His Torah. And that's what we're saying. Creation doesn't just refer to a beautiful tree. It's the human mind. It's the essential part of the person. When you understand that and how the complexity of it, and you understand the brilliance and the beauty of Torah, then you come to love God. I noticed something many years ago, that there are many intellectuals in the world, but only by yeshiva students who are serious students of Torah have I ever found that they'll be discussing a concept and one will say to the other, I want to tell you a gorgeous thought. I want to tell you a beautiful idea. When you're in college, you're in university, when you're in a think tank, you're discussing ideas all the time. You're trying to make sense of things, but it doesn't have that sense of beauty and that attraction and that connection. Because Torah is all about that relationship. It's all about that connection. The Anochi Hashem Elokecha, the I of Hashem is your God in your personal way. And that's what we're engaging in. We have to remember Shavuot is when we receive the Torah. It's not just about the information that we got or these brilliant ideas for us to study and ponder. It's a relationship. It's a connection. There's a very, very interesting argument between two rabbis in the Mishnah, between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael. They talk about when the Jews received the Torah at Mount Sinai, the Torah tells us that there was smoke and there was thunder and there was lightning. Rabbi Yishmael says that they saw, what did they see at Mount Sinai? They saw the smoke, they saw the lightning, and they heard the thunder. Which makes sense. Certain things can be heard, certain things can be seen. Rabbi Akiva says no. They heard the lightning and they saw the thunder. How do you do that? Obviously something miraculous. What's this argument? Rabbi Yishmael says no, everything went normal, and Rabbi Akiva says it broke out of the laws of nature. But that's exactly it. You know, if you're living a spiritually connected life, then the miraculous or the brilliance of Torah is seen in your life on a steady basis, steady level. You're spiritually connected. You're at this place of connection to Hashem. So you're seeing that in your life constantly and continually. But if you're living in a world where you're far away from the spiritual, and every now and then you get to study a concept in Torah, you're blown away by the brilliance of it. You're blown away by, there's something, I'm breaking out of the normal boundaries and normal limitations of life to understand Torah or to live Torah. You know, somebody who's never studied Torah before, and I'll share a concept about the purpose of life, meaning, dealing with challenges and so on. The meaning behind the mitzvah, the exhilaration of fulfilling a mitzvah, and that, wow. But if you live that life daily, you might not see the wow, but it's because you're plugged into that daily. Says the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Grand Rabbi of Chabad, something amazing. He says this argument between Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva is consistent with who they were. Rabbi Yishmael was a Kohen. He was a priest. He was in the temple in the Beis HaMikdash where he was experiencing the miraculous all the time. So to him, it was a world of seeing the lightning and hearing the thunder, because that was his world. Rabbi Akiva came from converts. He himself didn't start studying Torah until he was 40. He came from a place of spiritual disconnection. So for him, Torah had to be breaking out of its boundaries, the incredible breaking out of it all. And in our lives, we have to be Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael at the same time. We have to have this steady commitment to Torah day in, day out, whether it's learning, whether it's davening, whether it's prayer, whether it's connection through a mitzvah. I have to have that amazing, awesome connection continuously. But I also have to have the Rabbi Akiva in me, where I just break out of my boundaries and I see the spiritual greatness. And I explore and find new concepts. A man came to speak to me not long ago, and he said that for whatever reason he was struggling spiritually. And it was very hard for him to connect, whereas he had been in the past very connected. He was having a very hard time connecting now. And I said, I think you need to go on a spiritual scavenger hunt. You need to start looking for the spiritual meaning, and just keep on looking, and just be amazed by what you find, and allow yourself to be awed by it. And then when that stops awing you, look for something else and keep on going for the next thing, and so on. That's being a Rabbi Akiva in your life. But we have to have the anchors of Rabbi Yishmael. With Shavuos practically upon us, we're going to sit Shavuos, and there's a custom Shavuos night to stay up all night and study. And in past years at Data Plano, we had dozens and dozens of people studying with us. And it was amazing. And Rabbi Yogi would give classes on fascinating topics, and I would study with some of the men and women, and there were other groups studying on their own, and the kids would come. It was incredible. And this year, we're not going to have that. We'll have services, but we're not going to have all-night study, because I can't expect everyone to study for 5-6 hours wearing a mask. But I do hope some people will come to my front lawn, Shavuos night, and study with me. And maybe about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, I hope we'll study out there for a little while, maybe an hour or two. But even when you study in your home, I encourage you to, first of all, study. Don't just go to sleep Shavuos night. Study. And the day of Shavuos and the second day of Shavuos, study. Find some time to study. And maybe, just maybe it's a blessing. Maybe there's actually a blessing in Corona, in the quarantine. Maybe that blessing is that you can't rely on the community, and you can't rely on the group studying or the group davening and praying and so on. You have to find your personal relationship with Hashem and your personal aspect of Torah. You have to find the Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva within yourself. You can't just go to the class where you're going day in, day out like a Rabbi Yishmael. And you can't just show up Shavuos night for Rabbi Yogi's amazing class that'll blow you away. No, you have to create it on your own. And that's my challenge to you, is that just like the Jews accepted the Torah 3,332 years ago, so too you on Shavuos. When you study a Torah, first of all, study it with the 101. The 101 meaning with Hashem. Bring Hashem into that. Understand that Judaism is Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am Hashem your God, the deepest connection to Hashem. But personalize it in finding your aspect of Torah that gets you to break out of your boundaries, see things in a whole new light. And find the Rabbi Yishmael in you, the consistent study, the consistent connection. And if we do that, then we'll truly be living Har Sinai. And we'll merit a wonderful Yom Tov. May we be Zocha, may we merit to the Oros HaChag, the lights of the Yom Tov. And may we merit to accept the Torah again in a highly, deeply personal way. But don't forget about me. Come study with me. Come visit me on Yom Tov. Let's make a l'chaim together. Let's discuss Torah together. I hope I'll see you over Yom Tov at shul or in my lawn. And let's study together. But even more than that, find the Rabbi Akiva and the Rabbi Yishmael within yourself. Good Yom Tov.